The following is an exclusive presentation of WI Garden Media, the voice of Garden Talk Radio. At any time of growing season, people will gravitate towards something's not right. I need to add fertilizer. Now, there is multitudes of fertilizers like there is cereal in the aisle at the grocery store, and sometimes it gets confusing on what is good and what is not, and what's a money grab and what's fake.
Absolutely, and it also kind of depends, I think, on who you ask and how they feel about things or what they use versus, just like a lot of people might lean towards if there's two major brands.
A familiar.
Yeah, familiar. Or I used X because my family has used X for blah, blah, blah years, whatever. So organic fertilizers are great. So they include things like manures, compost, sometimes bone meal, blood meal. These are directed from plants or animal sources. And then inorganic fertilizers are things like ammonium sulfate, ammonium phosphate. These are chemical or synthetic fertilizers because they go through manufacturing process.
This will all be on the label.
Yeah, and they will sometimes be derived from organic deposits, like mineral deposits, but not always. It just depends on...
Well, somewhere down the chain of command, it's an organic product in some form or fashion before it's constructed into a inorganic material, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about this, you want to think about a few things. Is that one, organic fertilizers are less. There's less to apply, so they may cost more, but you don't have to apply as often or as much. Inorganic fertilizers,
it goes longer, goes further for your dollar.
Inorganic fertilizers are cheaper, but then you might have to apply more.
But with the organic versus inorganic, the inorganic can be more environmentally damaging than the organic can.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is that they are not, they're not absorbed by the soil as much. So there's a lot of chance for runoff.
Right. And there's science to this. Now,
yeah, absolutely.
Now you can go, this is science. This is not government science. This is true science. If you want to go that route and believe certain things, there are certain organizations that navigate or create science fact in order to fit a narrative.
Right.
This is factual.
Yeah, this is like plant science,
right.
Eco science, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So, So inorganic fertilizers usually only contain a few nutrients. So like if it just says on the bag, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sometimes they'll have like sulfur included too, but they don't always have anything beyond that. So you get what you get, right? Like you know that it's going to have X, Y, Z, and that's pretty much it. Once you have organic fertilizers, you're going to have X, Y, Z, and probably some other nutrients, minerals, etc.
Right, sulfate, calcium, magnesium, some of the macronutrients is what they label them as. And the plants react differently to the type of fertilizer that you are applying.
Absolutely. So some plants will uptake most plants will uptake the organic fertilizer or the inorganic fertilizer faster than the non-organic fertilizer.
Whether it needs it or not.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
And inorganic bonds to water molecules much more readily than the organic can.
Yes. So that's one thing to keep in mind.
That's where you get runoff and algae bloom with the nitrogen, increased levels in ponds, streams, and rivers and lakes is because of that nitrogen runoff. And it's the over application in some instances. It's not that somebody's just backing a truck and pouring it in the creek. Oftentimes, the application, if a little is good, a lot's better because I got a problem. Now, I'm not saying the backyard gardener in Kansas City, Missouri is causing the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico.
No, it's a cumulative process.
Right. Millions of people doing a little bit at a time. You fill a thimble at a time, but if you have 1,000 people, it goes a little quicker.
Right. And then organic fertilizer, or inorganic fertilizers or chemical fertilizers will often make a crust on the soil. And that
like dried coffee grounds.
Yeah, like dried coffee grounds.
But that consistency.
Yeah. And so obviously when there's a crust over your soil, it's not going, if it rains or you water, it's going to be a problem. So you want to make sure that if you are using inorganic or chemical fertilizers, that you are stirring your soil, cultivating your soil to make sure that you don't have that crust form.
Now, again, organic, you can apply too much of that too. the difference in organic is you are just literally pouring money into the ground, and the plants are only going to absorb what the plants naturally need to absorb. They will discard the rest.
So I just want to talk about that, is that using organic fertilizer, whatever it may be, but you want to use it properly. Mm-hmm. So for example, too much of a good thing is bad, right? So something like manure, if you don't let that manure age,
you're going to burn.
You're going to burn your plant. Yeah. So that might be an organic method of fertilizing, but you have to wait till it ages.
Depends on organic in some form of the fashion, because depending on what the animal is eating, the pig, the cow, the goat, the sheep, if they're eating chemically sprayed grasses or chemically sprayed grain, it's not. I don't think you can call it organic. If they're eating genetically modified corn, soybeans, sprayed wheat.
I'm just using an example
as a very loose example,
right? Yeah. And that you have to make sure that you're understanding, even if it's quote unquote organic, what you're putting on it,
right?
And you are cognizant of what's you're adding to your soil, because of that organic matters, the nutrients, etc., the organic properties, it's going to stay in your soil longer typically than the inorganic, because the inorganic is absorbed faster and quickly by the plants, as opposed to inorganic is going to live and build your soil, and then that helps build your plants.
Now, you don't necessarily need organic or inorganic fertilizer. Look at what nature does. It takes the dying debris of leaves and allows them to compost in the forest floor, and then new plants grow next year, the berry bushes, the shrubs, the thorns, all of that. There's not a gnome going around and adding a little dab of fertilizer to all the little plants.
You don't know that.
I've got good sources that indicate that it's not. I got a better chance of Sasquatch than the gnomes. Anyway, we can mimic that in the backyard. Bring in organic compost. Create compost. Take the leaves and put in your garden at the end of the season. And let them naturally break down. So you don't have to think, okay, I'm going to garden. I've got to set aside X amount of dollars for fertilizer, because that's what you gotta have. You don't have to have fertilizer.
No, you don't have to have fertilizer, and you can definitely build your soil many ways, and you don't have to add fertilizer. I personally think it's great to add fertilizer as you need it,
right?
As you really need it, and I wouldn't wait until there's a problem, but I would maybe once a year. Another thing is to keep in mind is that if it's colder out and you're using organic fertilizer, it's going to move slow.
Mm-hmm. Just like molasses, the warmer the material is, the faster it's going to flow through whatever you're doing. Also, now as we are getting into the later portions or middle to later portions of summer, these garden centers are trying to dump inventory. So if there is a specific type of fertilizer that you feel that you want and you want to have some on stock, now's the time to go. Look for the ads, see what they have on clearance, because they don't want to hold on to this stuff. I don't even know if they can legally hold on to some of this stuff.
It doesn't necessarily go bad, but I think they just want it off their shelves.
They want it gone.
Yeah, and even in the most surprising places, you'll find this stuff on clearance, like a big box store back in the back area of their clearance. You'll find this stuff. So it's something to
And fertilizer does not go bad if you keep it in a cool, dry place. If moisture gets into it, then it's still going to work, but you've got clumps and big, popcorn ballfuls of fertilizer.
Right. I would definitely, if you are using an inorganic fertilizer, chemical fertilizer, you want to make sure you read the storage instructions, because some of this stuff is highly combustible.
And yes, and organic and inorganic fertilizer both can come in granular and liquid form. So it's not just a one-size-fits-all thing. There's multiple avenues in order for each one of these type of things. Well, there's only one place, Holly, where you can get everything but the meat, and they offer a really sweet coupon code for all of you listeners, and you guys have been using it. It's Walton's Incorporated.
Absolutely. As we are heading into canning time, meat harvesting time, etc., Walton's knows you care about what's in your food. So Walton's, you can get the equipment, seasoning, and supplies to make sausage, jerky, and other meat products your way to your high standards. Do you want to make snack sticks that people actually like?
That
Walton's?
You like?
That I like?
No, that
everybody likes?
Because I've made stuff that wasn't that, but I ate anyway because I made it. But you want to make it so you can enjoy it.
That beef jerky ones? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, Walton's can help you make some delicious beef jerky that your friends
turkey jerky, deer jerky
will want to enjoy. And then you can give it
goose jerky's good too.
Goose jerky.
Yes.
You can give as gifts, who knows. But anyway, they have everything, their own full line of meat grinders, mixers, sausage stuffers, seasonings, all sorts of great stuff. If you go to waltonsinc.com, they also have a community where you can learn more about meat processing at meatgistics.com. When you go to waltonsinc.com, you can use code GROW50 to save 10% off your orders of $50 or more. For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.